Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday to you. Happy post-selection Sunday right here on the KSL Sports Zone. Yes, it's that time of year, one of our favorite times of all of the year for us to get together and to be able to chat about how terribly you're going to do at your bracket. It's a cliche at this point, JJ. At this point, we know we probably won't do well. Although you and I both in the office bracket over the last couple of years, we've done pretty well. Did you end up winning it last year, getting first or second?
How come I don't remember?
Well, you were the guy who everybody went up against, and I think the year before I was the guy who listeners went up against.
Win.
I think you won the bracket last year as an office, and I won it the year before, but I think I might have been like third or fourth. Last year, we've had as a show, when I get my kids to pick my bracket for me, we do phenomenally, all right?
That is the secret.
We did have a fun thing yesterday where I have one kid who's like, I'm picking all mine, just tossing the coin. I went, you know what? Good for you. And Duke ended up coming through for him on one of his brackets. When I say coming through, I mean Duke got to the national championship game, I think against Long Island, or Stony Brook, or Rhode Island, or Long Island. That sounds right. So Long Island, I think is a 15 or 16 seed. They're going to be playing on the other side of the bracket against Duke for the national championship. So there you go.
Well, there you go. We'll look forward to that match.
I'm going to see if they can make that run.
A historic run by a 16 seed.
A historic run by a 16 seed. We'll see if it happens. And if that's the case, Harvey's got himself $20 in the Kirry family pool. Not that we encourage any of that, but I don't know. It's a lot of fun. We had all the brackets printed out yesterday. We're all filling them out. It was a fun time. So at the very least, there's that. Right off of the bat, though, JJ, we've got a lot to get to. Your weekend okay? How was it, the festivities down in Vegas?
It was awesome.
It's one thing to see.
Congratulations to the Mountain West Tournament champs.
Can you believe it?
Utah State Aggies did it again.
It's so hard to win the regular season as it is. And then it's another thing to have to go on and win the conference tournament. We were trying to figure out how many times this has happened in Utah State history. Can't be that many times. And so for Jared Calhoun and his guys to get the regular season win, to get the conference tournament win, trophies all around for everybody, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think, is it 2020? I think they did it with Sam Merrill. But no, it's not. It's something that you have to really celebrate and enjoy. And boy, did Aggie fans show up, man. The herd was all there. The crowd was very, very pro-Aggie. And I think the crowd really helped them. And what a party it was down on the court. And it was kind of sentimental in the fact that it's the run in the Mountain West and in Vegas is over. Like, it's not going to happen anymore. I don't know what the Pac-12's plan is on where they're going to stage their conference tournament, if it's going to be in Vegas or elsewhere, or even what building it's in. But for one last ride to go there, the Thomas and Mack, and my time there goes all the way back to the Mountain West days when BYU and Utah went down to play in the Thomas and Mack in that tournament. So many great memories with that. So it was kind of cool to see the Aggies go out of the conference in that fashion and to get a trophy. I had a chance to interview the players after the game, and it was really cool to see and experience. It's also cool that they let the fans run down on the court. Like most of these venues anymore, I don't think they did that at the Big 12. I didn't catch the ending of that game because I was busy on Saturday doing Utah State coverage. But I don't think that Arizona fans ran down on the court and celebrate. I don't know. But they let the herd and all the Utah State fans that wanted to come down on the court and celebrate with the team, and to be able to share that with your fans, to be a part of it, and to make that trip to Vegas a memory they'll never forget. Pretty cool. So congratulations to the Aggies, and now they can look forward to March Madness. And I know they're not happy with their seed, but they're in. And boy, that first round matchup with Villanova is going to be a lot of fun. And hey, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and you'll get a shot in the second round if you can get past Villanova.
I bought into I thought that the Aggies would have been like a 7 or 8 seed, and so I think when I saw the 9 seed, I went along with Coach Calhoun. Now, what I've learned over this whole thing, and we've known this for years, you got to put your elbows out and you got to lobby for your guys, whether or not you're in or out of the. Watch what what did Auburn do? They had to get some help from CBS correspondent Bruce Pearl. to be able to get,
An
to have him
objective
fighting.
voice.
To have him fighting for his kid's team. Now, they didn't get in, by the way, but I bought into oh man, they might have gotten hosed on the seeding. You said, yeah, but when you see what the metrics are, it's difficult to make a case that they should have been any higher than what they were. It is awesome to be a Mountain West champion. It is awesome to be the regular season and the conference champion. That's phenomenal. But this essentially is a league that is down this year. It's a one bid league officially right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means that they did or did not do, or what they did was less impressive than something that they've ever done. And never want to take that away from them. And historically, too, I don't know what's the highest seeding that Utah State has ever been in its time.
I believe it's a 7 or an 8.
Maybe a 7 or an 8 seed.
A 6 would have been historic.
So a 7, 8, 9 seed is kind of like the best you can ask for typically in a league that is one bid league like the Mountain West was this year. What were they? Were they 4? Were they 3 or 4 last year? I can't remember what it was. It was like it ended up being like
they had almost 5. Was it last year or the year before that Mountain West got 5 or 6 teams in?
Yes, and so this wasn't a super good year for the league overall, but even better for Utah State, who ran this thing all the way down there, and they did it. BYU ended up. What's crazy about all this, JJ, is BYU ended up with a 6 seed in the Portland region. Playing the winner of the play-in between Texas and NC State. I don't know how many versions of you saw of bracketology. I saw 10, 15 different versions of it, and they all had something similar to that. Most had, if you had to average it out, it would be them as a 6 seed in Portland playing that 11-11 play-in game. I've seen versions of Texas, SMU, Texas, NC State, and it ends up being the winner of Texas and NC State. And if you're BYU fans, you should be either scared to death or tickled pink. I don't know what to think about the draw that BYU got as a 6 seed out there in Portland.
I actually love their draw. And you look at the bracket, I think it's a great situation for them. BYU, while the injuries happened and the losing happened in February, it was tough. Their resume is stacked. They played more like 15 tournament teams. Like they have, if you look at their wins, it's phenomenal. They have some great wins. They had one of the toughest schedules in the country when you weigh it out as far as teams they played, either won or lost, that ended up in the tournament. I think it's close to 15 teams in the tournament they played this year. That's crazy. So their resume, despite all the challenges, was really good, and it holds weight as a 6 seed. So a lot of people were worried, they're going to dip and they're going to fall. Well, a strong performance in the Big 12 tourney basically locked up that 6 seed. And look, this is the 3rd year in a row. And this is the 4th straight time that they've been in the tournament that they've been a 6 seed. This seems to be the spot for BYU. And last year they finally figured out how to win one of those 6-11 games, and they made a run into the Sweet 16. There's no reason why they can't here. You look at the tournament, and I know that Texas and NC State are coming in. They're going to play in Dayton. They're going to get that chance to get warmed up in Dayton. The winner of that's going to feel pretty good about themselves. But these are 2 teams that really struggled at the end of the year. Really struggled. And the best player on the floor, no matter who BYU's playing on Thursday, is going to be A.J. DeBonsa. So you got to feel pretty good about that. The BYU's going to go out there, and they're going to have the best player on the floor. Now, if BYU beats one of those 2 teams, who is going to advance, BYU beats that team, they're still going to have the best player on the floor in the next round, even against a team like Gonzaga. A.J. DeBonsa is the X factor for BYU in this NCAA tournament because BYU can go round by round and say, we have the best player on the floor. Even if they get to the point where they face a Purdue team in the Sweet 16, they can still say, and Purdue's got a lot of talent, we still have the best player. That matters. BYU has a chance to make a run here because of A.J. DeBonsa, because he's such a special player. You get in the tournament, it's one game, the guy gets hot, he scores 30 or 40 points a game, you can go deep. There's always that special team with that special player that can make a run. Why not BYU?
I never know what to think because, you're told, this team's struggling. They can't do it with Richie Saunders. But to be by the way, this run that BYU's had of the last 3 years, Mark Pope did it 3 years ago, and then Kevin Young the last 2. To be a 6 seed in the last 3 NCAA tournaments, it brings a lot of attention to the program. Guys like A.J. DeBonsa do an even better job of bringing that type of attention to the program. And yet at the same time, I don't know what the ceiling is with this team. I think that's why it's a good draw because you go, you know what? I don't hate this. Sometimes you look at these and go, oh, man, they might not have a shot at all against X, Y, and Z. I don't like this matchup. Whatever it is. But I think you're okay with that 11, that whoever comes out of that 11v11 on Tuesday night between Texas and NC State, because you go, you know what, those are two teams that underperformed massively compared to with what their history is, and also compared to the type of talent that you're supposed to be getting at NC State as an ACC, you know. I don't know. What do you think NC State is? Probably a Tier 2 ACC team. You know, they've kind of been there for a long time.
They made that crazy run a couple years ago, but for the most part, that's a team that, you know, if they get to the NCAA tournament, they're probably losing the first round. And, you know, they're a Tier 2 for sure in the ACC.
So in that sense, I think people are fine to kind of see where BYU is and then go, you know what? Let's see. I think even a while ago, JJ, I think that you would have looked at this and gone, they have no shot even in that first round. If they were a 7 against a 10 seed, if they were a 7 seed playing a 10 seed and they were playing in Atlanta and they're taking on, let's say, a 10 seeded, like, you know, 5th place in the SEC type team, then you'd look at it and go, I don't like these odds here for these guys. But
remember
this
all
draw
the
matters.
Texas A&M games that they lost. They lost
or the Xavier games.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they lost to Xavier every year.
Teams like Xavier and Texas A&M, they could never get over the hump with those.
And you hated when they got
Kansas State.
Yes, you hated when they got those draws because you're like, oh, it feels like it's already over before it even starts. And it's not the case, but again, I think that compared to where you were a few weeks ago, even just winning the 2 games that they did in the Big 12 tournament, I think BYU fans should feel okay about this. One, because AJ DeBonsa already moved up again on the kind of best odds to go number 1 overall in the draft. Just off the Big 12 tournament. You don't think he's going to be motivated to bust his butt to do the same thing? And then everybody else around him benefits from everybody watching number 3, and then they go, ooh, I like what Rob Wright's doing. Yep. Tell me more about this kid over here. Tell me more about what this guy's doing. Because everybody gets lifted up by the fact that AJ DeBonsa is going to get, if you thought that his stock was going to rise here, it's going to go up even further. You're going to see probably an insane first-round output from him. If not, every team, by the way, goes, let's make sure and lock down AJ DeBonsa. Okay, congrats. That's what everybody says.
Texas and NC State aren't lockdown teams. That's not going to happen.
And by the way, teams who see BYU twice during the season have a hard enough time with number 3, right? And so I think that you're going to see a game where this guy's going to be highly motivated. But what's the reality of a ceiling for BYU? Give me a real shot, because we watched Napos and I were looking at the CBS Sports guy who goes, man, BYU's got a tough open draw against that 11v11, whoever the winner of that is. But then the same guy put him in the Elite 8. Is there any way that BYU gets to the Elite 8 this year? Or is it just, you know what, a little bit, too many season-ending injuries for this roster to be able to overcome it?
Let me walk you through the path. Let's start with the first round. I think it's pretty good odds, no matter who, whether it's Texas or NC State, that BYU's winning that game. They've got AJ DeBonsa, and I think they figured some things out in the tournament. Are they still a great defensive team? I would say no, but they got better. I think they were very competitive against Houston, which gave me a lot of hope coming in this tournament that they figured out some things. They got some better performances out of guys off the bench. Diamande was terrific in the Big 12 tournament. That's a guy we've been wondering about all year. Where's this guy? Where's he at? Well, he finally showed up. Can he be a factor now? Can he give them some good minutes? But you look at the path. You win the first round game. Who are you going to see next? Most likely Gonzaga. Can BYU, the 6 seed, beat the 3 seed Gonzaga? BYU beat a 3 seed last year in Denver, in Wisconsin, who had John Tonje, who's a really good player. But BYU was better, and they got the win. You've got AJ DeBonsa. Rob Wright, he's capable of having a big game. Can BYU beat Gonzaga? They absolutely can. Is Gonzaga great? Yes, they are. But is it not a winnable game for BYU? Absolutely not. BYU could beat Gonzaga. If you're able to do that, you're in a Sweet 16 game against a 2-seed Purdue, a Big Ten team that just won the Big Ten tournament. Really good, loaded with great players, right? But that's also a team that has a history of exiting out of the NCAA tournament early because of the style of play they have. Sometimes they struggle offensively. Can they guard AJ DeBonsa? Probably better than any team at that point. But why can't AJ have a big game against Purdue? You beat Purdue in the Sweet 16. All of a sudden, you're looking at Arizona as the 1 seed, unless Utah State knocks them off in the second round. How about a Utah State BYU West Regional Final?
Why not?
That'd be awesome. In our dreams, but my heart says yes. My head says that's not going to happen.
The Elite 8 starring BYU and Utah State.
But in the scenario I'm playing out here,
I love it.
To answer your question, could BYU beat Purdue on a neutral floor? My answer is yes. Can they beat Arizona on neutral floor? We've seen that already. My answer would be no.
I was going to say,
Okay? They made it close in Provo, but the answer is no, and I think it would stop there. So to answer your question, their ceiling, I think, is Elite Eight, which would be their first Elite Eight trip since 1981, which would be pretty special, right?
Yeah, and I think, and we look at that and we go, look, the Danny Ainge Elite Eight run was great, but also that was when the tournament was 32 teams.
It was a different tournament.
So you had to win. You have to win 3 games. You got to get to.
That's a lot.
You got to get to that. You got to do something crazy special to be able to get there. And in a year where BYU has had, I think for all intents and purposes, JJ, people look and they go, it's nice that they're a 6 seed and they're in the NCAA tournament, but it's been a little bit of a down year considering what the optimism was going in. When Richie Saunders went down, I don't think anybody in their dreams thought that we could even have a legitimate conversation about whether or not BYU could go to the Sweet 16 again. Yeah, and yet here we are.
They're there, and it's just one game at a time. And until you get to Arizona in the Elite Eight, you're going to have the best player on the floor. And I would argue that even in that game against Arizona, you probably have the best player, but you don't have the depth, right? Depth becomes a real problem when you get to that Gonzaga game. Can BYU overcome their lack of depth and match Gonzaga's depth? Purdue has even more depth than Gonzaga. Arizona has even more depth than Purdue. You see how that transfers to each round of the tournament. Depth matters, and that's where ultimately BYU could have some issues. And defensively is also an issue. If AJ has an off game, they're toast. But they have AJ. And this is a massive, massive spectacle. And I think that AJ is made for this and built for this, and he's ready to shine. And when you have a player that caliber, they can go out. And the way he performed in the Big 12 tournament gives you hope that he's going to go out there and each and every game in this tournament deliver, because he's not afraid of the moment. He's proven that.
We got lots of questions on today's program. Of course, the NCAA tournament. It's always fun to watch the bracket come out. We'll be filling out our women's bracket coming up in the next segment here, and then we'll be able to get through. Oh, that's tomorrow. Is that what you said? Okay, we'll fill out our women's bracket tomorrow, JJ.
Yep, I'll do it.
You and I together. Here we go. We got it going on. Hey, by the way,
I got UCLA over UConn. By the way,
if you think that's going to be the final, you think that's going to end up being the final?
I'm going to go with that.
Okay. Well, there usually is yeah. I mean,
because I think they're the 2 best teams in the country.
Kind of by a lot.
So you
right?
didn't think I could talk women's NCAA?
No. I wasn't saying that you couldn't. I was just saying maybe
UConn's a juggernaut.
I'll see if
AZ
you can go.
Fudd's the real deal.
All right, fine. We're going to do full first round action. You got to break it down for us next. By the way, we've got our own bracket challenge, of course, here at KSL Sports, and you can go and you can figure it out for yourself on how to beat our own David James. DJ knows a thing or two about brackets,
yes,
which actually works against you. I think we've all learned in the past. Oh, you're really, really good at knowing. You know ball? Well, obviously you're going to get second to last in your family bracket, all right? You're going to lose to your kids, lose to most of it. However, DJ, if you can beat DJ, we've got some prizes here for you. So go to the KSL Sports Zone Bracket Mayhem. Click on KSLSports.com. Click on it. Let's get this thing going. Make your picks today. You could win $1 million for a perfect bracket. You could also win $1,000 if you beat David James and you are the best local bracket. So you're also entered to win up to $500 just for beating DJ. And if you've got the best local bracket, $1,000 coming your way. So we got a bunch of money coming your way. It's all powered by Omada. Omada Real Estate. Buying and selling a home, visit OmadaRealEstate.com. It's OmadaRealEstate.com. We'll come back. We've got more around the corner. We've got tons to talk about here locally. What on earth is going on with this Mammoth team? We've got a Mammoth game tonight down in Dallas, taking on the Stars, one of the best teams, not just in this division, in the entire dang league. And, man, does this team need a win to get things going again after now 4 straight losses. They certainly don't want to face 5 straight losses. We will come back. We'll talk more about some tournament odds. We'll talk more about some of the favorites, not just the ones here locally, but the ones that you're picking across your brackets as well. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Shortened show today, thanks to Mammoth Hockey coming up at 5 o'clock. So we've got you for the next 90 minutes, we hope. So just stay right along here with us. The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals, honoring people who are impacting youth sports in their neighborhoods. You probably know these people in your communities who do the extra for those youth sports in your community. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week program. Just go to KSLSports.com/contests, and we can read off those winners every week. We will have those winners for you, and then Beehive Meals throws $250 their way. They get a bunch of pump-ups on our socials at KSL Sports, and that's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week program. So there you go, KSLSports.com/contests. A couple years ago, around this time, we were watching Cody Williams in his last moments as a Colorado Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then as the number 10 overall pick later in the spring, or later in the year with the Utah Jazz, of course. And then he had a career night for him, for the young man. How about 34 points for young Cody Williams? That's pretty fun for him to be able to have that thing going on.
I think we can say now officially that this kid's not a bust, that there's a lot there, and there's a lot of progress being made, and he is worth seeing out as a Jazz prospect. Only in year 2, right? So what does year 3 look like? And we talked about Keontae George. We've seen Jazz rookies come through this system, and you saw the improvement by Walker Kessler in year 3. You see what Keontae George has done in year 3. What is Cody Williams going to do in year 3? I am now very intrigued, and I want to find out. And it needs to be in a Jazz uniform. He is a part of this team moving forward. There's no doubt about that.
Ace Bailey, out a few games with the concussion symptoms. I think that they're going to reevaluate after what was the latest on him? I think he's going to be at least looked at. He's not going to be a go through the 18th at least, and so we'll see what they do after that. But more guys getting dinged up for this Jazz team, and dumb luck they get the loss at the Kings last night. We'll chat about that just a little bit later. In the meantime, let's get ourselves going here on some NCAA tournament odds, and it's fun. It's always fun to look at this thing through the lens of kids. And we've got a lot of them at our house, and we're all filling out brackets yesterday. Everybody, ages, the entire group, everybody, which of course means that the 3-year-old's probably going to win. But it is hard when they go through, and then suddenly like your kids get to the end, and like your 8 and 10-year-olds, your 8 and 11. In my case, your 8 and 11-year-olds, they can't help but go chalk, because it's scary to try to pick, a 6 seed against an 11 seed when you're 11 years old and you go, I can't see this happening. And so, however, we had a full slate of 1 seeds in the Final Four last year, so it happened.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to look at a team and they're like, oh, Florida won the national championship last year. Well, they're going to go to the they're going to go to the national championship this year, or at least the Final Four. And I go, sometimes it's just not how it works. Right. I'm so sorry, but that's just not how it works. They could. Duke being the number 1 overall seed. How many times in our lifetime, JJ, have you and I seen a Duke team be extremely good? Duke is the standard of basketball across decades. You think about Krzyzewski and then Shire now, and you go, these guys have continued to just be insane. Yep. Some weird way, Shire's somehow gotten himself to a spot where he's actually like bringing almost a little bit more consistency, it seems like, in that program, because it's like Duke was always pretty darn good. But then they start to go deep. It's one thing to be Duke and be the number 2 or number 1 seed, and then you get out in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. It's hard not to look at Duke and think, man, those guys, I don't know who's going to be able to beat Duke. However, this is the NCAA tournament, JJ. Matchups matter.
I think a Big 12 team is going to win it all.
Man, it's strong at the top for the Big 12, right?
I think that conference, especially at the top, is the depth of those teams, the toughness, the star power, every metric that you use to measure how good a college basketball team is, they've got it. Now, I know Duke is great, and Cam Boozer is phenomenal. He's going to win the Naismith. They deserve that number 1 overall seed. They've been phenomenal. I just think that these Big 12 teams, having played each other and kind of battled it out in league, when you look at leagues, and the SEC had some depth to it, but it's not as strong at the top as it was last year. I mean, you can't tell me that this Florida team's better than last year's Florida team. I don't think this year's Alabama team is better than last year's Alabama team. You start going through each SEC team, and I'm not sure that you get to the point where you can identify that all those teams are better this year than they were last year. You can actually say that Arizona is better this year than they were last year. Arizona should scare everybody, and I know that Aggie fans don't want to hear that right now, but that team is so deep and so strong and loaded with talent. Koa Pete is going to be a top 10 pick. He's not the best player on that team. How many teams have a top 10 pick that's not the best player on their team? Only Arizona. So Arizona's loaded. I think Iowa State is another battle-tested team. It's tough. They can grind it out and get a win. And Houston is obviously in that conversation as well. Texas Tech took a a beating. I don't think they have what it takes. Kansas could put it together. Kansas is really good too. So I think the Big 12 has a great shot to get a national champion this year. Even though Duke is that strong number 1 overall seed, I look to the Big 12 to get it done this year. And I look on the other side, the other ones. Michigan had a great start to the season. They haven't looked as dominant as they did earlier in the year. And I think Florida, in that region, it's going to be tough. I think there's some really good teams in that region. I think Illinois has a top 10 pick in Wagler, and they've got some other good dudes. And Houston, I think they're battle-tested. I think that there's a lot of young guys on that team that weren't on that team last year, but Kingston Flemings is pretty darn good. So you look at these teams in that region, and I think Florida could be picked off. Michigan's going to have a tough time. But that Duke bracket is loaded with great teams as well. UConn, tough. Louisville can play. Kansas. St. John's is a 5 seed? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That East region is tough. So
let me roll through and just you said a Big 12 team could win this national championship.
I do.
So by conference, let's see, the SEC ended up with 10. The Big 10 ended up with 9 bids. The ACC and the Big 12 both with 8. Those are your power conferences, right?
Yeah.
And although the Big East did get the 3 teams, and I know that they're considered kind of the Big 6 or the 6 of the Big 6 or whatever, but the 8 teams that got in, and I think the Big 12 has had, was it last year they had 12 in, or was it there were a couple years ago they had 12 in, or was last year? Either way, 8 teams in here. The SEC had 14 in last year. That was the record, right? Getting a bunch of teams is one thing. Getting a bunch of teams in that are competitive.
Yeah.
I think you and I both have talked about this and agree that the Big 12 this year seems like a conference that, last year you knew Houston was really good, right? But and Arizona has been pretty good for the last couple of years. But the top of this league, Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech. You tell me out of this group here, which one has a possibility that they're good enough to win a national championship? Arizona.
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Iowa State.
Yes.
Kansas.
Not quite.
On the edge there. Texas Tech?
No. Nope, not with their injuries.
So you fall off after the top 3 there. Kansas, probably not. And then it goes Texas Tech, BYU. I don't think people look at it and go, yeah, that's a national.
But I just made a case that they could get the Elite 8.
Sure. And if you get to the Elite 8.
Your 10th place team in the Big 12 can make the Elite 8. What does that tell you about the league?
So pretty darn good. Good deep league this year. I think the top is better this year than it was last year.
Agree.
And I think you're going to see a team like, I don't know, we went through, and I can convince myself that, Arizona doesn't do. Look, Tommy Lloyd hasn't been it, man, the last couple of years. We went through that number right before the show, Annapolis and I, and it was like, Tommy Lloyd has a way of having extremely good. They're 31-2 this year.
Yeah.
They're not the overall number 1 seed, but I think people could look and go, yeah, they could actually be better because the top of that conference is better, I think, even than the top of the ACC. So you look at these teams and who they're playing. Iowa State, for some reason, is a darling. You always see the darlings that come out of this thing. People like picking Iowa State as a team that could go to the NCAA, or not just to go to the national championship game and maybe even win that thing. But part of it is because Arizona's their net ranking is 3, Houston's is 5, Iowa State's is 7. Texas Tech is 19. That's your top 4 right there. Then it goes Kansas 21, BYU 23. The BPI ranking, 3 for Arizona, 4 for Houston, 6 for Iowa State.
Yeah.
If you're a top 8 in the BPI or the KenPom or the net rankings, you have a shot to win the national
100%.
title. That's just how the numbers work. And so if you're BYU and you have an 18 BPI ranking or a 23 KenPom ranking or a 23 net ranking, not there yet. And I think people know that. They feel that way anyway. Surprised that TCU got the ranking that they did. Surprised that UCF got in the way that they did. They were in the mid-50s for net ranking, which is kind of right along those lines of where people look and they go, they might not get in. But I thought that the Golden Knights getting in was a big deal for the Big 12. I thought it was good for their program too.
Absolutely. And Johnny Dawkins has done a great job, and BYU fans know how good UCF can be. I think that BYU win got them in the tournament, to be honest.
Yep.
I really think as a 10 seed, you look back, what's their marquee win? It's on the road in Provo. And, boy, they were good that night. They had a 36-point lead in the Marriott Center. How many teams have been able to come in and do that? I know BYU was struggling at that time, and they had no defense in that game, but UCF to come in there and play the way they did was really impressive. Do I pick UCF to beat UCLA in that game? Oof, I don't know. And I don't think UCF would have any chance against UConn, nor would UCLA. But I think that UCLA is, by the way, a 5.5-point favorite in that game, which I agree with. I think UCLA wins that game. But UCF is a 10 seed out of the Big 12. I mean, that tells you how good the league is, that you're sitting here saying UCF in the Big 12 could give UCLA a good run there. So it just shows you how much depth there is in the conference.
Lots of really, really good teams in this year's conference. I think that you have, or in this year's bracket, you look at how many teams are 30 or upper 20 wins for the regular season, and then you have teams like in the end, Miami, Ohio was not going to get left out, even by losing in the quarterfinals. Akron got a 13 seed. I think people looked at Miami, Ohio, and they said, no, they have to get in. And they did. And, of course, they're already 9.5-point underdogs in that 11v11 game versus SMU in the first. It is funny because, and Scotty G put it out over on Twitter this weekend, or on X this weekend, and I can't disagree with him. He's like, a couple of these teams in the Mountain West would have beaten Miami, Ohio by a dozen, or whatever it was, or, it definitely would have beaten this team. I don't think people disagree with that. Every year, there are teams that you look at and you go, yeah, Stony Brook would probably lose to San Diego State. Okay, we get it. But what is required to get in the NCAA tournament is just different, right? It's not the same. They have 68 teams that they have to figure out what they're going to do with them, and you got to do more. It's a pretty big bummer for the Mountain West to only be a one-bid league. It seems strange, for a league that just seems to have been punching above their weight in so many of the last few years going into the tournament.
It's disappointing, but I can't argue with it because you look at the resumes of the teams, and they just weren't quite there this year. There was opportunities for teams like San Diego State, New Mexico to get some higher quality wins earlier in the year. And the reason that the Mountain West got a lot of bids in the previous years is because San Diego State had some massive non-conference wins. New Mexico, even the Aggies had good non-conference wins in years past. Colorado State last year was a great example of a team that had a great non-conference. They didn't have the non-conference resume this year. Now it's tougher to get those games, and it's going to get even tougher. Power Fours are not going to play a lot of these non-Power Four teams in non-conference play. They have no reason or incentive to do that. They're going to go play in these tournaments, and they're going to play home games. And that's it, against low teams, because they don't have to build a resume in the non-conference because their conference play does that for them. You look at BYU, give BYU credit. They did play. They played teams like Delaware. They did play some non-conference games against some teams. There was some other. They played Villanova in a neutral floor. They played UConn. They challenged themselves in the non-conference, but a lot of these teams aren't really doing that anymore because they have no incentive to do it. So it's harder for teams like Utah State to schedule those great games in the non-conference. Miami of Ohio had a weak schedule, they say. Well, who's playing Miami of Ohio? Is Kentucky going to play them? How do they get those? How do they get those quad one wins when no quad one teams want to play them?
Right, I get it.
So that's tough. And the tournament committee is using. Kim Pomeroy talked about it today on Scotty's show. This bubble thing that they're using, this metric, wins against the bubble or something like that. I can't remember exactly what they describe it, but they have a way of measuring that out. But anyway, the point being is that there's a lot of teams that are in this tournament, and they're there for a reason. And now that they're there, anything can happen. And this is why we watch. It would be a shame if a team like Miami of Ohio got left out so that we could have Auburn in the tournament who went 500 this year.
Right.
Who cares? I want to see a great story. I want to see Cinderella. That's why we're watching. That's why we're tuning in. And I hope that the tournament committee doesn't lose sight of that, and that people that are chasing the buck right now don't lose sight of that yes, you're going to have all your powerful teams, and they're going to end up winning the whole thing. But I want a Miami of Ohio story. I want a VCU. I want those kind of stories that you don't know. Like Santa Clara could be that story this year out of the WCC, a team that makes a run that we didn't expect. So that's why we tune in. That's why we watch, and that's why March Madness is special.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. We have more right around the corner. Tons you don't want to leave any of this off the list here. If you want to listen to us talking about all these, of course, you'll get your best insight so that you can put your bracket together and lose against your kids, just like we will. So stay right here. More to go right around the corner. We have a Sucks to Be You next, plus our Rocky Mountain Chevy Dealer Play of the Weekend. If you listen to DJ and PK, you can tell us what that play was that they gave out. We're going to give that out next. We're going to give you a chance to win next when we come back. So stay right here, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
So you think you know everything about college basketball, huh?
These people are not dumb. They're very smart.
Okay, smart guy. Time to put that knowledge to the test and go head-to-head with the Zone staff. It's another edition of KSL Sports Basketball Mayhem. Log on right now at KSLSports.com to fill out your bracket. The listener with the top bracket will receive $1,000 of cold, hard cash. And if you finish with a better bracket than, let's see here. Who can we pick on? How about David James? You'll be entered into a drawing to win $500. It's KSL Sports Basketball Mayhem on KSLSports.com. Presented by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home? Visit OmadaRealEstate.com. Basking in the sports misfortune of others to help make you feel just a little bit better about yourself. As JJ and Alex present,
Yes, we got beat. We got beat badly.
It Sucks to Be You.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Yeah, you know what that music means. It is currently time to bask in the lives of the folks who it sucks to currently be in the world of sports. JJ and Alex, by the way. JJ, everything good? Everything copacetic?
Doesn't suck to be me right now. It sucked to drive around all over the place this weekend, but it was sure a lot of fun to be down there in Vegas with Aggie.
Well,
Aggie
it's
Land.
pretty fun. It's pretty fun when they get the win, and you lose to San Diego State in the title game. It would have been like an absolute.
It would have been a bummer.
Yeah, and yeah. Oh, guess what? They would have been a two-bid league. Not really. I mean, just you would have the feeling like But good for them. I mean, I think about there's 2 or 3 teams that if you beat them in the conference championship game, San Diego State's one of them.
Yeah.
New Mexico's obviously probably one of them too.
Yeah.
And then after that, I don't know, coin toss between, whomever the flavor of the day is.
There's history there, but I think for the most part, the Utah State-San Diego State dynamic, that was the 5th time they'd met in a Mountain West championship game.
That's crazy. Yeah, those 2 teams have a history.
Yes.
And look, they all get to take that history to the majority of the people in this league. We'll get to take their
The
talents.
rivalry will not end. It
the
just
Pac-12.
won't be in the Mountain West.
Do you think the Pac-12 is going to be a pretty tough league, or is it going to be just kind of a version of what we've got right now?
Let's look at it. Gonzaga is going to be in the league. They're probably your top profile.
Already making it to where you're going to be
right now.
You're going to be a 2-bid league immediately.
Utah State's not going to slow down. We'll see what happens with Jared Calhoun. I think there's a job in Cincinnati that's going to be calling. Mm-hmm. We may be talking about that next week, but whether he's back or if they have to go in another direction, you've got a lot of these players coming back. Mason Fossil's back. He was the Mountain West Player of the Year. And then you keep going down the line. I think that there's other teams in that league that may have to step up that you're bringing in. But Colorado State was in the tournament last year. They just had a little bit of down year this year, and they got hot in the end and were interesting down the stretch. So it's going to be a really good competitive league. I think in the long term, it will be better than the Mountain West Conference. You also have Washington State and Oregon State in there that are going to, I think once they get into that league, things will improve for them. Oregon State's looking for a new head coach. There's going to be some depth there that wasn't in the Mountain West Conference. But, teams like Fresno State need to step up. There's other schools that have been down that usually were up and had better programs. But we'll see how that all develops. But I like the league, and it's exciting to see it all come together.
Hey, right now, you can give us a call. The Rocky Mountain Chevy Dealer Play of the Weekend that was given out on DJ and PK. If you know what that play was this morning that they gave out on their program, you can give it to us right now and get yourself a gift card to Amazon, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE, 801-575-9663. Tell us what that play was, and you get that gift card, and it's all part of the Rocky Mountain Chevy Dealer Play of the Weekend with an impressive lineup of cars, trucks, and SUVs. No wonder people are switching to Chevy, your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers. 801-575-ZONE. If you can give us that play, we'll get you hooked up with a gift card from Amazon. Let me see here. Sucks to be UVU. All that talk. We even said it right before the weekend. We were like,
complete opposite feeling that the Aggies had this weekend. That was brutal.
We're like, listen to all this. You know what's going to happen? They're going to have all this discussion, go back and forth. They're going to have it all buttoned up to where they can go to the NCAA tournament, and then they're going to lose in the conference title game that they're going to be favored in. And of course, Cal Baptist took it to them. Well, it was a close game, but they still.
No, it was heartbreaking because the Wolverines had that thing in the bag with less than 3 minutes left, had a 6-7 point lead, and then all of a sudden, Dom Daniels, who's the player of the year in the WAC, couldn't miss from 3. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn earlier in the game, and he got hot at the end. And he was the player of the year in that league, and he was the best player in that game. And Utah Valley still had a chance to tie it at the end, and just the heartbreaking way that they lost, a missed dunk at the very end. I know everybody around the country saw that play, and it's getting a lot of run. But Utah Valley lost that game because they didn't play good defense in the perimeter at the very end of that game. What sucks to be Utah Valley the most is the fact that you can go 25-8. You can win your conference regular season title, and you can come that close to winning your conference title, and everyone's like, man, that sucks because you didn't make the NCAA tournament. And it's really hard that a team can play that many games, win 25 of them, and your entire season comes down to 2 hours in Vegas in March. It sucks. It's hard. It's really hard. But that's the truth, and that's how they're going to be judged until Utah Valley breaks through and makes the NCAA tournament. That's the perception of that program, and they're going to have to break through that ceiling. And they were so close this weekend, and it's just heartbreaking that they didn't get it done.
Sucks to be BYU and Utah women's basketball teams who are both in the first 4 out group.
Oh,
both
BYU was the last team out. They were the first team out, and I think they should have been in. They were better than Arizona State this year, and they proved it. And Arizona State got in, and Colorado got in, which is
Arizona State. I felt like there was hey, you know what? They won 26 games or whatever it was. Like it was the best in their in their program's history. His first year coach. They had some momentum of like a narrative that was going on, but it's all about what you're playing like right now. And that's what's interesting is like you get a team hot right now.
BYU was better. They just were by all metrics.
It was tough. It's tough not to see BYU and Utah
Sunday
women's
play
in this
could have
one.
been a factor in that as well.
Sure, why not?
Utah, they ended a 4-year run of making the tournament. First time we don't have a women's team from the state of Utah in the tournament since 2018.
Just a shame to see Auburn, Oklahoma, and San Diego State. Dumb luck. Didn't get picked for the NCAA tournament.
Sorry about that. The show. Sorry, Aztec fans.
Real bummer. And then Alabama's Aiden Holloway getting hit with a felony marijuana charge. What, dude? A felony marijuana charge in 2026?
Yeah,
you got to do a lot.
Something's up.
That's a lot of effort. A couple kilos in the back trunk. What are we doing here?
He's been removed from campus while the school conducts an investigation.
They're like, we try to let you get away with some weed these days. Felony marijuana, we can't let slide. All right. We'll take a break. Cole Bagley, Utah Mammoth Insider for KSLSports.com, going to give us an explanation on how this team breaks this losing streak that they're currently on. Man, they need to stay in that winning side of things, but it's going to be tough against this Dallas Stars team that they're taking on tonight in Dallas. So stay here. Cole Bagley next, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.